The mountain cabin sat alone in the white wilderness, its wooden walls creaking against the fierce wind. Snow fell so thick that Maya could barely see 5 feet beyond her frosted windows. She pulled her woolen blanket tighter around her shoulders and stirred the fire with an old poker. The flames danced higher, casting warm shadows across the small room. Maya had been living in this remote place for 3 years now. The cabin belonged to her grandfather, who had passed away and left it. To her, she chose to stay here after losing her family in a terrible accident. The guilt ate at her every day. But up here in the mountains, she didn't have to face anyone's questions or sympathetic looks. The storm outside was getting worse. The weather report had warned about a blizzard, but Maya never expected it to be this bad. The wind howled like a wild animal, and the snow piled up against her door. She was glad she had stocked up on food and firewood last week. Maya worked as a computer programmer, doing her job from home through the internet. She rarely talked to anyone except when absolutely necessary. Her closest neighbor lived 20 miles away, and she liked it that way. The loneliness was painful sometimes, but it felt safer than being around people who might get hurt because of her. The power had gone out an hour ago, leaving her with only the fireplace for light and warmth. She had a small generator, but she was saving it for emergencies. The oil lamps gave the cabin a cozy feeling. Even though the storm outside sounded like it wanted to tear the place apart, Maya was heating up some soup on her gas stove when she heard something that made her freeze. Someone was pounding on her door, not knocking politely, but banging desperately, like their life depended on it. She set down her spoon and listened carefully. The pounding came again, weak but urgent. Her heart started racing. Who could possibly be out in this storm? The nearest road was miles away, and even with a good vehicle, it would be dangerous to drive in this weather. Aya grabbed a flashlight and approached the door slowly. She could hear someone breathing heavily on the other side. "Please," a voice called out, barely audible over the wind. "I need help." Maya hesitated. I'd learned to be careful about trusting strangers, but the voice sounded desperate, and whoever was out there would surely freeze to death if she didn't help. She took a deep breath and unlocked the door. The wind immediately tried to push her back as she opened it. Snow rushed into the cabin, and the cold hit her like a physical blow. In the beam of her flashlight, she saw a tall figure collapsed against her doorframe. It was a man, but something about him seemed odd even in the dim light. He was wearing strange clothes that looked like they were made from some kind of metallic fabric. The material was torn in several places, and she could see dark stains that looked like blood. His skin was pale, almost white, and his black hair was longer than most men wore it. But what really caught her attention were his eyes. Even in the darkness, they seemed to glow with a faint silvery light. "Are you okay?" Maya asked, struggling to keep the door open against the wind. The stranger looked up at her, and she saw pain in those unusual eyes. "Shelter me for one night," he said in a voice that had a strange accent she couldn't place, "and I'll make you regret it. But please, I'm dying." Maya thought he must be confused from the cold and his injuries. People said strange things when they were in shock. Without thinking about it anymore, she grabbed his arm and helped him inside. He was heavier than she expected, and she almost fell as they stumbled into the warmth of the cabin. She managed to get him to the couch near the fireplace and then quickly shut the door against the storm. The stranger was shivering violently, and she could see now that he was badly hurt. There were cuts on his arms and what looked like burn marks on his chest. "What happened to you?" Maya asked, grabbing some towels and her first aid kit. "Were you in a car accident?" He shook his head slowly. "Not a car," he whispered. "My ship crashed in the mountains. I've been walking for hours." Maya figured he was talking about some kind of small airplane. That would explain how he got so far from the main roads. She had heard about pilots who got lost in storms and had to make emergency landings in the wilderness. She started cleaning his wounds, trying to be gentle. Cuts were deep, and she was worried he might need stitches. But as she worked, something strange happened. The wounds seemed to be healing on their own. The bleeding had stopped, and the skin was actually starting to close up. Maya blinked hard, thinking the dim light was playing tricks on her eyes. But when she looked again, the healing was even more obvious. One of the cuts on his arm was now just a thin red line. How is this possible? She muttered to herself. The stranger opened his eyes and looked at her. I'm not what you think I am, he said quietly.
Oh.
I'm not from your world. Maya sat back on her heels, staring at him. What do you mean? Before he could answer, a bright light suddenly filled the cabin. Maya spun around to see several beams of light shining through her windows. The lights were too bright and too focused to be natural. They moved in patterns that seemed almost like they were searching for something. The stranger grabbed her arm, his grip surprisingly strong. They found me, he said urgently. I'm sorry. I didn't want to bring danger to you, but I had no choice. Maya's mind was racing. The healing wounds, the strange lights, his talk about not being from this world, it all seemed impossible. But she had seen the evidence with her own eyes. Who are you? She asked. My name is Kai, he said. I'm from a planet far from here. My people sent me to Earth to prepare for something terrible, but I learned things that made me run away. But they're hunting me, and anyone who helps me will be in danger. The lights outside were getting brighter, and Maya could hear a low humming sound that seemed to come from above the cabin. It wasn't like any aircraft she had ever heard before. Kai struggled to sit up, wincing with pain despite his rapid healing. I have to leave, he said. If they find me here, they'll hurt you too. But Maya surprised herself by shaking her head. You're not going anywhere in this storm. You're still injured, and it's freezing out there. You don't understand, Kai said desperately. My people are not like yours. They have technology that can do things you can't imagine. They won't hesitate to eliminate anyone who gets in their way. Maya looked at this strange man who had stumbled into her life. 3 years ago, she had failed to save the people she loved most. Maybe this was her chance to do something right. Maybe this was why she had ended up in this remote place, far from everything she once knew. Then we'll have to make sure they don't find you, she said firmly. Kai stared at her in amazement. Why would you risk your life for someone you don't even know? And Maya didn't have a good answer for that. All she knew was that she couldn't turn away from someone who needed help, even if it meant facing danger she didn't understand. She had been hiding from life for too long. The humming sound above them was getting louder, and the lights were now circling the cabin like predators. Maya realized that her quiet, safe life was about to change forever. She had asked a stranger in from the storm, and now there was no going back. Kai reached out and touched her hand gently. I meant what I said, he whispered. You will regret helping me. But I promise you, if we survive this, I'll show you wonders you never dreamed existed. Maya looked into his glowing eyes and felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Hope. Not the safe, quiet hope of being left alone, but the dangerous, exciting hope of being part of something bigger than herself. Outside, storm raged on, but inside the cabin, two beings from different worlds sat together by the fire, preparing to face whatever came next. Maya didn't know it yet, but her decision to open that door would change not just her life, but the fate of everyone on Earth. The strange lights circled the cabin for what felt like hours, but Maya's watch showed only 20 minutes had passed. Kai sat perfectly still on the couch, his unusual eyes tracking the movement of the lights through the windows. The humming sound grew louder, then softer, as if the searchers were moving closer and then pulling back. What are they looking for exactly? Maya whispered, afraid to speak too loudly, even though she knew the storm outside would cover any normal conversation. Kai turned to her, and in the firelight, she could see how different he really was. His skin had an almost pearl-like quality. There were faint markings along his temples that looked like tattoos, but seemed to shift and change as she watched. They're looking for me, he said quietly. But they're also scanning for my ship. When it crashed, it sent out a signal that my people can track. The problem is, your planet's military forces can detect that signal too. Maya felt a chill that had nothing to do with the storm. Military forces? You mean like the army? Yes, but not just yours. My people have been in contact with some of your government officials for months. They've been planning something together. But I discovered the truth about what they really want. The lights outside suddenly stopped moving and focused on one spot about a mile away from the cabin. Maya could see them clearly now through the window, 3 bright beams coming down from the sky like searchlights, but much more intense than anything she had ever seen. "They found my ship," Kai said grimly. "That means they know I'm somewhere in this area. It won't be long before they start searching every building." Maya stood up and began pacing, her mind racing. "Okay, let's think. About this. If they're looking for you, what exactly will they do when they find you?" Kai was quiet for a long moment. "My people believe I'm a traitor. They'll take me back to face judgment, which means execution. But first they'll want to know who helped. Me? And how much I've told them? And what about me?" Maya asked, though she was afraid of the answer.
Oh.
"They'll consider you a security risk. In their minds, any human who knows about our presence here is a threat to their plans." Maya stopped pacing and looked at him directly. "What plans? What are your people really doing here?" Kai stood up slowly, testing his strength. His wounds had healed completely now, leaving only faint silver lines on his skin. "They're not here to make friends, Maya. They're here to take over your planet. But they want to do it quietly, without a big war that would damage the resources they need." "Resources?" Maya's voice cracked. "You mean like oil and metals?" "No," Kai said sadly. "They want your water, your clean air, and your farmland. The own planet is dying, and they need somewhere new to live. But they don't want to share it with humans." The reality of what he was saying hit Maya like a physical blow. She sank back down into her chair, trying to process it all. "So they're going to kill everyone?" "Not everyone at first. They plan to use humans as workers, at least for a while. They've already convinced some of your leaders to cooperate by promising them positions of power in the new order." Maya felt sick. "And you were part of this?" Kai nodded, shame clear in his expression. "I was a scout, sent to study your defenses and identify key locations for the invasion. But the more I learned about humans, the more I realized how wrong this was. When I tried to report back that humans were intelligent beings who deserved to live free, my commanders told me to stick to my mission." "So you ran away?" "I stole a ship and tried to escape, but they shot me down. I barely made it to the surface alive." He looked at her with something like wonder in his eyes. "Been walking through your mountains for 2 days, and I was ready to give up when I saw the light from your cabin." Maya was quiet for a moment, absorbing everything he had told her. Outside, the storm was finally beginning to calm down, but the strange lights were still visible in the distance. "How long do we have," she asked, "before they find us?" "Maybe a few hours. They'll search the crash site first, looking for clues about where I went. But they have scanners that can detect my life signs from several miles away." Maya stood up and began gathering supplies. "Then we need to leave, Maya. You don't understand. If you help me, there's no going back. I'll hunt you for the rest of your life. You'll never be safe." She turned to face him, surprised by the determination in her own voice. "I haven't been really living for the past 3 years anyway. Maybe it's time I started." Kai studied her face in the firelight. "Why are you doing this? You could turn me into your authorities and probably get some kind of reward." Maya thought about his question. Why was she willing to risk everything for someone she had just met? Maybe it was because she had spent so long feeling guilty about not being able to save her family. Maybe it was because she was tired of hiding from the world. Or maybe it was because she could see the genuine kindness in his strange, glowing eyes. "Because it's the right thing to do," she said simply. "And because I think you're telling the truth." Kai smiled, and for the first time, he looked almost human. "There's something else you should know. My people have abilities that yours don't. We can sense emotions, share thoughts, and manipulate energy in ways that might seem like magic to you." "Show me," Maya said. Kai held out his hand, and Maya watched in amazement as a small ball of light appeared in his palm, pulsed gently, giving off a warm blue glow that reminded her of moonlight on water. "This is how we communicate across long distances," he explained. "But it's also how they'll track me if I use it." Maya reached out tentatively and touched the light. Felt warm and tingly, like a mild electric shock, but pleasant rather than painful. For just a moment, she felt something incredible, a sense of peace and connection that she hadn't experienced since before her family died. "That's amazing," she whispered. Kai closed his hand and the light disappeared. "There's so much more." I could show you, but not here. Not while they're hunting us. Maya went to her grandfather's old desk and pulled out a detailed map of the mountain region. My grandfather used to be in the military. He was pretty paranoid in his later years. And he told me about places to hide if there was ever trouble. She pointed to a spot on the map about 10 miles away. There's an old mining tunnel here. It goes deep into the mountain and it has multiple exits. If we can make it there, we might be able to lose them. Kai studied the map. It's risky. Be exposed while we're traveling, and the snow will make it slow going. Do we have a choice? Before Kai could answer, they heard a new sound, the distant whine of helicopter engines cutting through the dying storm. Maya looked out the window and saw lights approaching from the south. These weren't the strange alien lights they had seen before. These were human aircraft. You're military, Kai said grimly. They detected the alien activity, and they're coming to investigate. Maya felt panic rising in her chest. So now we have both sides looking for us? And neither side will be happy to find us together. Maya grabbed her winter gear and started putting it on. Then we better get moving. As she packed supplies into her backpack, she couldn't help but think about how much her life had changed. In just a few hours, this morning her biggest worry was whether she had enough firewood to last the storm. Now, she was preparing to run from both alien hunters and her own government. But strangely, despite the danger, she felt more alive than she had in years. For the first time since her family's death, she had a purpose that mattered. She was no longer just hiding from the world, she was fighting to save it. Kai finished putting on one of her grandfather's old coats, though it was too small for his tall frame. Are you ready? Maya shouldered her pack and took one last look around the cabin that had been her sanctuary for 3 years. She had a feeling she would never see it again. Ready? She said. They opened the door together and stepped out into the cold mountain night, leaving behind the safety of the known world for whatever dangers awaited them in the darkness. The trek through the snowy mountains was harder than Maya had expected. Even with her grandfather's old snowshoes, she sank deep into the fresh powder with every step. Kai moved beside her with surprising grace, his alien physiology apparently better adapted to the cold than her human body. They had been walking for 3 hours when Kai suddenly stopped and held up his hand. Maya froze, listening to the night sounds around them. At first she heard nothing but the wind through the pine trees. Then she caught it, the distant sound of engines, both helicopters and something else that made a low thrumming noise. They're getting closer, Kai whispered. We need to find shelter soon. Maya checked her map with a small flashlight. The mining tunnel should be just over that ridge, maybe another mile. But as they crested the hill, Maya's heart sank. Old mining entrance was blocked by a recent rock slide. Tons of stone and debris had sealed the tunnel completely. Now what? She asked, trying not to panic. Kai studied the area carefully, his enhanced vision picking up details Maya couldn't see in the darkness. There, he said, pointing to what looked like a small cave entrance about 50 feet up the mountainside. It's not much, but it might hide us until morning. They climbed carefully up the rocky slope, using tree branches and roots to pull themselves higher. The cave turned out to be deeper than it looked from below. As they moved inside, Maya was surprised to feel warm air coming from somewhere deeper in the mountain. That's strange, she said. Why would it be warm in here? Kai had gone very still, his head tilted as if listening to something Maya couldn't hear. We're not alone, he said quietly. Before Maya could ask what he meant, a bright light suddenly illuminated the cave. But this wasn't the harsh white light of the alien searchers. This was the warm yellow glow of electric lanterns. Don't move, a voice called out from the shadows. Keep your hands where we can see them. 3 figures emerged from the deeper part of the cave, all carrying what looked like modified hunting rifles. They were human, Maya realized with relief, but they weren't dressed like military personnel. They wore civilian clothes and moved with the careful confidence of people who had been hiding for a long time. Please, Maya said, stepping forward slightly. We're not here to cause trouble. We just need somewhere to hide. The leader of the group, a woman with short gray hair and intelligent eyes, studied them both carefully. Her gaze lingered on Kai, and Maya saw recognition dawned in her expression. You're one of them, the woman said, but her voice didn't sound afraid. If anything, she seemed relieved. Kai nodded slowly. My name is Kai. I'm a refugee from the HFY fleet. And you are? Dr. Lisa Chen, the woman replied. And you, young lady, just stumbled into something much bigger than you realize. Maya felt confused. I don't understand. How do you know about his people? Dr. Chen lowered her weapon and gestured for them to follow her deeper into the cave. Because we've been preparing for this day for over 20 years. Your grandfather was one of our founding members. Maya's mouth fell open. My grandfather? But he never said anything about aliens or secret organizations. Robert was a good man, and a careful one, Dr. Chen said, as they walked through a series of natural tunnels that had been reinforced with metal supports. He knew that the less you knew, the safer you would be. But he also knew that someday, you might need to know everything. They emerged into a large underground chamber that took Maya's breath away. It was like a hidden city carved into the mountain. There were living areas, workspaces, and what looked like a medical facility. Dozens of people moved about their daily tasks, and Maya noticed that not all of them were human. Welcome to Haven Station, Dr. Chen said. One of 12 underground facilities built to house refugees from dying worlds. Maya stared at the beings moving around the chamber. Some looked almost human, but with subtle differences, different colored skin, larger eyes, or unusual proportions. Others were clearly from different species entirely, though all seemed to walk upright and interact peacefully with the humans. How long has this been going on? Maya asked. The first refugees arrived in 2067, Dr. Chen explained. A small group of scientists fleeing a war on their home planet. They shared their technology with us in exchange for sanctuary. Over the years, more groups arrived, always running from something terrible. Kai looked around the chamber with wonder. I had no idea humans were capable of this level of compassion. On my world, we were told that your species was violent and selfish. Some of us are, Dr. Chen admitted. But many of us believe that intelligence and consciousness are precious, no matter what form they take. We've learned so much from our guests, and they've helped us prepare for what's coming. Maya sat down heavily on a nearby bench, trying to process everything she was seeing. So you knew about the invasion? We suspected it was coming, Dr. Chen said. Several of our refugee friends warned us that the HFY were expanding aggressively, looking for new worlds to colonize. We've been gathering intelligence and building defenses, but we're still vastly outnumbered. The young man approached their group, and Maya noticed he had the same silvery markings around his eyes that Kai did. Dr. Chen, we're receiving reports. From our other stations, the HFY have accelerated their timeline. The invasion fleet will arrive in less than 48 hours. Maya felt the blood drain from her face. 48 hours?
Ow.
But that's not enough time to warn everyone. We've been trying to warn people for years, Dr. Chen said grimly. But most government officials either don't believe us or are already working with the HFY. We estimate that about 30% of world leaders have been promised positions in the new order. Kai clenched his fists. I should have acted sooner. Should have found a way to stop this before it got so far. You're here now, Dr. Chen said gently. And you've brought us something we desperately need. What's that? Maya asked. Hope Dr. Chen replied. Kai, you know their technology, their tactics, their weaknesses. With your help, we might actually have a chance. Maya looked around at all the different beings working together in the underground facility. What can I do? Just a computer. Programmer who's been hiding in the mountains for 3 years? Dr. Chen smiled. Your grandfather left something for you, something he said you would need when the time came. She led them to a secure storage area and opened a metal locker. Inside was a complex piece of equipment that looked like a cross. Between a computer and some kind of alien device? What is it? Maya asked. It's a communication array that can hack into both human and HFY networks simultaneously, Dr. Chen explained. Your grandfather designed it with help from some of our refugee friends. But it requires someone with advanced programming skills to operate it. Maya studied the device, recognizing some of the components, even though others looked completely foreign. What would I need to do with it? If we can get you close enough to the HFY command ship, You could theoretically broadcast a signal that would disable their entire fleet, Dr. Chen said. But it would mean going right into the heart of enemy territory. Kai stepped forward. I can get her there. I know the ship layouts and the security protocols. It's too dangerous, Maya protested. You said yourself that they'll execute you if they catch you. They'll execute all of us if we don't try, Kai replied. Besides, I have some advantages they don't know about. Dr. Chen looked between them. There's something else you should know. The device will only work once, and whoever operates it will need to stay with it until the signal is complete. The Kathai will trace the source within minutes. Maya understood. What she was saying, it was likely a one-way mission. As she thought about her quiet life in the cabin, her years of hiding from the world and from her own grief. Then she looked at all the beings around her, humans and aliens working together, united by their desire to survive and protect each other. When do we leave? Maya asked. Dr. Chen smiled. Tomorrow night. We'll get you as close to the landing zone as possible, but after that, you'll be on your own. As they prepared for what might be their final mission, Maya realized that her grandfather had been right. Needed to know about all of this, not just to save herself, but to save everyone. The scared, guilty woman who had hidden in the mountains was gone. In her place was someone ready to fight for a future where different species could live together in peace. That night, as Maya lay in a borrowed bed in the underground facility, she thought about the strange journey that had brought her here. A desperate alien knocking on her door during a storm had changed everything. Tomorrow, she would risk her life to save both their worlds. It was terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. She was no longer running from her past. She was running toward a future worth fighting for. The next morning brought news that changed everything. Maya woke to the sound of urgent voices and running footsteps echoing through the underground facility. She quickly dressed and found Dr. Chen in the main command center, staring at multiple screens showing satellite feeds from around the world. What's happening? Maya asked, though the grim expressions around her already suggested the answer. They moved faster than we expected, Dr. Chen said without looking away from the screens. The first wave of ships decloaked over major cities. An hour ago, the invasion has begun. Maya looked at the screens and felt her heart sink. Massive alien vessels hung in the sky above New York, London, Tokyo, and dozens of other cities. They were beautiful in a terrifying way, like enormous silver teardrops suspended in the clouds. But what made Maya's blood run cold were the smaller ships swarming around them like insects. How many people know? Maya asked. The internet is going crazy, but most governments are telling people to stay calm and remain indoors, Dr. Chen replied. They're calling it a first contact situation. And saying negotiations are underway? Kai appeared beside them, his face pale with anger. Negotiations, he said bitterly. They're not negotiating. They're delivering ultimatums to the leaders who haven't already agreed to cooperate. One of the other resistance members, a man named Tom, who had been monitoring radio frequencies, looked up from his equipment. We're getting reports of strange energy readings from the ships. It looks like they're scanning the population centers. Scanning for what? Maya asked. Kai's expression grew darker. They're cataloging humans like livestock, identifying the strongest and healthiest for work assignments, and marking the rest for ... disposal. Maya felt sick. Ow. On the screens, she could see people in the streets of various cities, some pointing at the sky in wonder, others running in panic. None of them knew what was really happening. We have to do something now, Maya said urgently. Can't wait for tonight. Dr. Chun shook her head. The device isn't ready yet. We need at least 6 more hours to calibrate it properly. And even then, getting close to one of those command ships will be nearly impossible now that they're fully deployed. Wait, Kai said suddenly. There might be another way. He turned to Dr. Chen. Do you have any ships here? Anything that could get us into orbit? We have a few small craft that our refugee friends built, Dr. Chen said slowly. But they're not designed for combat. They're basically just shuttles. That might be enough, Kai said. If I can get aboard my people's command ship, I can access their central computer directly. It would be much more effective than trying to hack in from the outside. Maya stared at him. You want to go back to the ship where they'll execute you? On site? I have something they don't know about, Kai said quietly. When I was designed for my scouting mission, they gave me special access codes that can override their security systems. They probably forgot to revoke them when I went rogue. Dr. Chen looked skeptical. It seems like a pretty big oversight. For an advanced civilization, Kai smiled grimly. You have to understand how my people think. They're so convinced of their own superiority that the idea of one of their own actually betraying them never really occurred to them. They probably assume I'm either dead or hiding somewhere on the planet's surface. Tom suddenly called out from his radio station. Dr. Chen, we're getting an emergency signal from Station 7. They're under attack. Everyone in the command center fell silent. Station 7 was another underground facility like theirs, located about 200 miles away. If the Cathai had found it, it meant their secret was out. Put it on speaker, Dr. Chen ordered. The voice that came through the radio was full of static and panic. This is Station 7. We're under assault by ground forces. They have some kind of scanning technology that detected our underground chambers. We're evacuating through the emergency tunnels, but they're blocking our exits. Request immediate assistance. The transmission cut to static. Dr. Chen tried repeatedly to re-establish contact, but there was no response. How did they find them? Maya asked. Kai looked troubled. They must have captured someone who knew about your network. Under interrogation, my people can extract information from any mind. Maya felt a chill of fear. Does that mean they know about this place too? Probably not yet, Kai said, but it's only a matter of time. Need to move now, while we still can. Dr. Chen was already issuing orders to her people. Begin emergency evacuation procedures. Priority goes to the refugee families and anyone who can't fight. Everyone else prepare for defensive operations. Maya watched the organized chaos around her and felt a strange sense of calm settling over her. This was it, the moment when everything would be decided. I thought about the communication device her grandfather had built, sitting incomplete in its storage chamber. How long would it take to finish the device? She asked Dr. Chen. At least 4 hours? Maybe 5, Dr. Chen replied. But we don't have that kind of time anymore. Maya made a decision that surprised even herself. Then we use it as it is. Maybe it won't be perfect, but something is better than nothing. Maya, you don't understand, Dr. Chen said urgently. In its current state, the device could overload and explode. Anyone operating it would be killed instantly. And if we do nothing, everyone will be killed eventually, Maya replied. At least this way we have a chance. Kai grabbed her arm. You're not doing this alone. I'm going with you.
Oh.
Maya said firmly.
Oh.
You need to get to that command ship and use your access codes. That's our best shot at stopping the invasion fleet. Won't leave you to die, Kai said stubbornly. Maya looked into his glowing eyes and saw something there that made her heart ache. In just a few days, this alien being had become more important to her than she had thought possible. But that was exactly why she had to let him go. You won't be leaving me to die, she said gently. You'll be giving me a chance to save everyone we care about. Before Kai could argue further, Tom called out again from his radio station. We've got incoming aircraft. Multiple bogies approaching from the northeast. Everyone in the command center rushed to the surveillance monitors. On the screens, they could see several Cathai ships approaching their mountain location. The ships moved with predatory grace, clearly scanning the terrain below. How much time do we have? Maybe 10 minutes before they're directly. Overhead, Tom replied. Maya felt her pulse quicken. 10 minutes to make a decision that would affect the fate of 2 worlds. She looked around at all the beings in the command center, humans and aliens working together, united by their desire to survive and protect each other. I need that device, Maya said to Dr. Chen. Even if it's not finished. Dr. Chen hesitated. For only a moment, then nodded. Tom, help me get the communication array from storage. Everyone else, continue evacuation procedures. As they prepared the device, Maya realized that Kai was staring at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. It was part admiration, part fear, and part something else that made her feel warm despite the cold mountain air. When this is over, Kai said quietly, I want to show you my home world. What's left of it anyway. Maya smiled, though she felt tears threatening to fall. I'd like that. Both knew it was unlikely either of them would survive the next few hours. But somehow, having something to hope for made the fear easier to bear. The sound of approaching ships grew louder, and Maya knew their time was running out. She picked up the communication device, feeling its weight in her hands. It might not be perfect, but it represented everything her grandfather had believed in, the idea that different species could work together, that intelligence and compassion were more powerful than fear and hatred. Ready? Dr. Chen asked. Maya took a deep breath and looked at Kai one last time. Ready? Outside, the first Cathai ships began to circle their mountain hideout like mechanical vultures. The final battle was about to begin. The Cathai ships circled closer to the mountain, their scanning beams cutting through the morning mist like silver knives. Maya clutched the communication device against her chest, feeling its strange warmth through the metal casing. In the command center around her, people moved with desperate efficiency, preparing for what everyone knew might be their final stand. The evacuation tunnels are ready, Tom reported from his station. But the ships are blocking most of our exit routes. Dr. Chen studied the tactical display showing the positions of the alien vessels. They're being careful. They want to capture us alive for questioning. Maya looked at Kai, who was studying one of the smaller ships through a periscope. Is that one of your scout vessels? She asked. Kai nodded grimly. Single pilot, lightly armed. If I could get to it somehow, I might be able to steal it and reach the command ship in orbit. That's a big if, Dr. Chen said. Those ships are 50 feet off the ground and heavily shielded. Not all of them, Kai said thoughtfully. At the one hovering over the east ridge, slower than the others, probably scanning the mining tunnels. If we could create a distraction, ... Maya understood immediately. You need something to draw their attention away from that ship. Maya, no, Kai said, reading her intention. You're not using yourself as bait. But Maya was already moving toward the emergency exit that led to the mountain surface. The device needs to be activated from outside anyway. The mountain will block the signal if I try to use it down here. Dr. Chen caught her arm. Listen to me carefully. The device is unstable. When you activate it, you'll have maybe 3 minutes before it overloads. You need to be at least a mile away from any Cathai technology when that happens, or the feedback could kill you. Understood, Maya said, though they all knew that getting a mile away in 3 minutes would be nearly impossible in the mountain terrain. Kai stepped in front of her, his strange eyes glowing brighter than she had ever seen them. There has to be another way. Maya reached up and touched his face gently. You taught me something important, Kai. Sometimes the only way to win is to be willing to lose everything. Before he could stop her, Maya activated the emergency exit and slipped through the hidden door that led to a camouflaged opening on the mountainside. The cold morning air hit her face like a slap, but she barely noticed. Her attention was focused on the alien ships floating above the mountain like mechanical storm clouds. She could hear sounds of pursuit behind her as Kai and some of the others tried to follow. But she had a head start and knew the mountain trails better than anyone. Maya climbed quickly toward a rocky outcrop that would give her a clear view of the ships and, more importantly, make her visible to their scanners. The communication device was heavier than it looked, and Maya had to stop several times to catch her breath as she climbed. Her grandfather had designed it to be powerful, not portable. She could see strange symbols glowing on its surface, some that looked human and others that were clearly alien in origin. When she reached the outcrop, Maya took a moment to look down at the scene below. The Cathai ships were positioned in a perfect search pattern, their beams systematically scanning every cave and crevice. In the distance, she could see smoke rising from what must be other resistance stations under attack. The invasion was proceeding exactly as planned. Maya activated the device's startup sequence, and immediately the ships below began to react. Their scanning beams swiveled toward her position as their sensors detected the energy. Signature. Perfect. She was now the most interesting thing on their screens. 3 of the ships immediately changed course and began moving toward her position. But one ship, the scout vessel hovering over the east ridge, maintained its position. Maya smiled. Kai would have his chance. She keyed the device to its second phase and felt it grow warm in her hands. The display showed a complex pattern of alien symbols that meant nothing to her, but she trusted her grandfather's work. He had spent years learning to read Cathai technology with help from the refugees. The ships were getting closer now, and Maya could see movement behind their transparent canopies. The pilots looked almost human from a distance, but she knew that up close, her pale skin and silver markings would make their alien nature obvious. Maya activated the third phase. The device began to hum with building energy. She could feel it vibrating in her hands like a living thing. According to the display, she now had less than 4 minutes before the overload sequence began. Movement in her peripheral vision caught her attention. Kai was climbing up the rocky slope toward her, moving with the enhanced agility of his alien physiology. Behind him, she could see the scout ship he had been watching. It was empty now, its pilot presumably joining the search for her. Maya. Kai called out as he reached her position. "I got the ship. Okay, we can both get out of here." She shook her head, not taking her eyes off the device's display. "Someone has to stay and make sure the signal gets through. The device needs constant adjustment during the transmission." "Then I'll stay," Kai said firmly. "You take the ship and get to safety." Maya looked at him with wonder. "You really don't understand humans at all, do you?" Before Kai could ask what she meant, Maya did something that surprised them both. She reached out with her mind, using the connection they had formed when he showed her his light ability. For just a moment, their thoughts touched, and she was able to share with him everything she was feeling, her determination, her hope, and her belief that this sacrifice would save both their worlds. Kai staggered back, overwhelmed by the intensity of human emotion. "Maya, I can feel. How is this possible?" "I don't know," Maya said honestly, "but I know what I have to do." She activated the final sequence, and the device began broadcasting its signal into space. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The Cathai ships around them suddenly lost power and began falling toward the mountain. Their pilots frantically tried to restart their systems as their vessels crashed into the trees below, but Maya could see on the device's display that the signal was reaching much farther than the local ships. It was spreading outward like ripples in a pond, reaching toward the massive command vessels in orbit around Earth. "It's working," she whispered. "The signal is disrupting their entire network." Kai was watching the display too, his enhanced vision able to read the alien symbols. "The command ships are losing power too." "But Maya, look at the overload indicator." Maya saw it too. The device was building toward a catastrophic overload much faster than Dr. Chen had predicted. Instead of 3 minutes, she had maybe 90 seconds before it exploded with enough force to level half the mountain. "Run," she told Kai. "Get to your ship and get as far away as you can." But Kai did something unexpected. Instead of running, he placed his hands on the device next to hers. "If this is how it ends, then we'll face it together." Maya felt tears on her cheeks. "You'll die too." "Then at least I'll die knowing I chose the right side," Kai said simply. Together, they watched the display as the signal reached its maximum strength. All around the world, Cathai ships were falling from the sky like metal rain. The invasion fleet was disabled, their crews stranded far from home without the technology they needed to survive. With 30 seconds left on the overload timer, Maya heard a sound that made her heart leap. It was the whine of approaching aircraft, but these weren't Cathai ships. These were human helicopters, probably sent to investigate the energy readings. "Someone's coming," she said. Kai smiled, his glowing eyes bright with hope. "Your people. I'll find the disabled ships and the stranded crews. Maybe now both our species can learn to work together instead of fighting." Maya realized he was right. The invasion was over, but now came the harder task of building peace between two very different worlds. It would take time, patience, and people from both sides willing to reach across the gap between species. With 10 seconds left, Maya made one final decision. Instead of waiting for the device to explode, she redirected all its remaining energy into one last transmission. Not a weapon this time, but a message of hope broadcast to every communication device on Earth. The message was simple. "This is Maya Chen. can broadcasting from the Rocky Mountains. The invasion has been stopped through cooperation between humans and peaceful aliens. We are not alone in the universe, and we don't have to be afraid. Today marks the beginning of a new chapter for all of us. The device went silent, its energy completely exhausted. The overload sequence stopped, leaving them sitting in the morning sunlight with a piece of dead technology and the sound of approaching rescue helicopters. Kai looked at Maya with amazement. You turned a weapon into a message of peace. Maya smiled, feeling lighter than she had in years. My grandfather always said that the most powerful technology is useless without the right person to guide it. As the first helicopter landed on the rocky outcrop below them, Maya realized that her life had come full circle. 3 years ago, she had lost everything and hidden herself away from the world. She had helped save that same world and found something she thought she'd never have again: hope for the future. The invasion was over, but the real work was just beginning. And for the first time in years, Maya was ready to be part of building something better.